This guy named Ethan Renault, who I believe you know him.
Yeah, we went to school together.
Oh, crazy. Are you like
Wow.
BFFs or you just know of him?
No.
Okay.
I mean, like I've spoken to him before, but we're not BFFs.
Okay. Well, he wrote an article for Relevant Magazine where he kind of called out Christians on something. Here he goes. He says, I don't know how I made it out single. Shortly after my first year of college, I went to Australia for a school and with YWAM.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you may be familiar with the missions giant, whose acronym officially stands for Youth with a Mission.
Right.
You're familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Lauren, you knew a lot of people who did this.
Yep.
I think our engineer, Alan Perry,
Was a YWAMmer.
was a YWAMmer.
Is that how you'd say it? YWAMmer?
That's how I would say it now.
Were you YWAMmy?
I was not.
Whammy.
Well, he said, those of us who survived it know it actually stands for something completely different. Like, for example, young women after men. Or, yes, we arranged marriages.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the list goes on. After YWAM, I headed to Chicago to attend Moody Bible Institute.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
He actually wrote that on here. I've heard that before. My first roommate got married between freshman and sophomore year
Ooh, that's early.
at the wizened old age of 19.
Not at Moody Ron.
I knew someone that did that too.
Between freshman and sophomore year?
Yeah.
Why? Well, okay, now we're getting to that. I know a dozen similar stories, yet for whatever reason, I've remained single through all my 26 years. I'm still like yes, we arrange marriages. We're YWAM.
Yeah, that's funny. I haven't heard that before.
Back before people got in trouble for doing things like this at Moody Bible Institute, I remember I had my office had a little window. It was more of a cloffice, we called it. But I was in this cloffice, there's a window, and I occasionally, every time in the spring, I'd hear like
I know.
a ruckus. And this is where all the boys on the boy floor would find out that one of the other boys had proposed to his girlfriend and they're now engaged. He would then subsequently be duct taped to the flagpole.
Mm-hmm. It's called flagpoling.
It wasn't a flagpole. It was actually, I think, a light post.
Yeah, but it's called flagpoling. Mm-hmm.
And then they would be whipped cream all over him?
Yes, they would duct tape you, put whipped cream, shout things at you. And the only way to get out was for your now fiance to come rescue you with a kiss.
Oh my gosh.
So lame. Did you and Eddie have to do that?
We did not date or get engaged while we were in school.
Is that why you waited to get engaged?
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't have come down to rescue him.
No, absolutely not.
He'd
He would have
still
been
be
stuck.
there.
Yes.
Now, so did you see this at your Christian school, Daria, Christian college?
Oh, yeah. No, I knew someone that got married during freshman year. And I know of at least during freshman year. Yeah, like in between the semesters. And I know of at least 4 couples that got married while in college. And then a couple that got married like immediately after. Like I got married not long after college, so I can't talk a whole lot, but like literally immediately after college they were married.
Now, I know one of the ways to make sure you get tons of financial aid for college is if you're married and have no job.
Okay.
Like this is a way to kind of, pay less for college. It's not what I recommend because it's playing with marriage. But some people do that. You think that was why your friends did that?
No.
It's a fast no.
Yeah, no. I don't know how it is at other Christian colleges, but at mine in particular, especially with the women, but also the men, there was this expectation that you had to find your spouse there, and if you didn't, you were going to be alone forever. And for some reason, there was just this expectation that women, it's your job to get married as young as possible and then immediately have children.
Yeah, I actually remember overhearing a conversation with some Moody students. Actually, no, that's not how it worked. It was a student worker in radio, and she recounted overhearing something, and it was a girl comes back from a date, and she goes, well, he's not very cute, but he loves Jesus. Like, that's all it takes for her.
Yeah, we used to have this running joke. Good girl loves the Lord, doesn't like me, don't know why.
Say that again.
Good girl loves the Lord, doesn't like me, don't know why.
So this guy that Ethan Renault, wrote this piece.
Yes.
It's called The Christian Case Against Ring by Spring, because that's the phrase, too, on college campuses.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ring by spring or You get
all
your
it
money
was.
back, or
Oh,
I don't know.
How one of my college professors described it, because it was a legit phenomenon. Okay, the weather's warmer, hormones start to rage, everyone gets engaged.
Yeah, and that's where he said there's a reason nearly every Christian institution has jokes about young members' wedding. They're accurate. What's more, everyone knows why, whether it's stated subtly or explicitly. The reason? Sex. This article from Ethan Renault, he's a Moody Bible Institute graduate. He wrote this piece for Relevant Magazine. He calls it The Christian Case Against Ring by Spring. And he just talked about the ongoing joke in any Christian organization, particularly for college students. You know, people call it the Moody Bridal Institute. You're going for your MRS degree.
Yep.
Somebody texted that one in. That's a very common one. YWAM, Young Women After Men. He says there's one reason, and one reason only, that this is a common thing on Christian campuses. Sex. Is that true? Because I didn't go to Christian college.
I think so. To young Christians, I mean, they've been told, okay, save yourself for marriage, and many of them do, but sex is created to be this ethereal thing. And I actually heard from people on campus, I don't want to die before I get married and have sex. Like that was their whole purpose in life.
Yeah. Hope the Lord doesn't return before that.
Yep, that one too.
Yeah.
weird.
Oh, wow. Lauren,
I think that's part of it. I also think we've idolized marriage in our culture, in our Christian culture. And so, at least I can't speak for men, but particularly for women, you feel like you don't have value if you aren't on a quick path to getting married.
generally speaking, having the two of you lived through this, right? And Ron, you went to a Christian college.
Yes, I did.
I almost forgot about that. Was this a thing in the olden days too?
Oh, yeah. We talked about the MRS degree.
All the time, yeah?
Yeah. It didn't seem like guys were chasing the girls as much. There were a few, but more the girls were trying to be like, hey, wake up over there, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Was this true in the olden days, that really it was all just about getting married so you can have sex?
I don't know, because I was not in a rush to get married. I didn't get married till I was 30. I knew one couple that did get married, like in between school years, but he was an older student, came back to college, so he was already in his later 20s.
Now, see, it seems to me that everyone knows this is true. I don't know that anyone ever talks about it explicitly, or do they? On a Christian campus.
Yeah.
So they're saying this is why we're getting married.
I heard some people talk about it, yeah.
Wow. So how do we feel about this in general? Like this is clearly a wide-ranging, very common thing for Christians. Is this good?
No, because you've got people that are, I think, getting married before they're ready, and they're getting married for the wrong reasons. I think as a culture, this isn't just a case for the secular world that glorifies sex. I think Christians do it as well. I think parents need to give their kids a more realistic expectation about what it is, and not make it like this forbidden fruit that like they have to do it or they're not fulfilled and life is not complete.
What do you think, Lauren? Is this you agree, right? It's not, you're not like, oh, this was great.
No, yeah. I appreciate that they're trying to be without sin.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, that they're trying to go about it in the proper way. But their desires are they're placed on the wrong thing.
And clearly it's become something that it's not a Christian college fault. I mean, kids show up like this.
Exactly. It's their culture that they grew up in.
So it's churches and parents.
Yeah, we're putting too much pressure on sex or no sex instead of being prepared to be married for a lifetime.
Yeah, he went on to write this in his article in Relevant Magazine. As one of the small pockets of people who still wait for marriage in a hypersexualized culture, it doesn't take much to figure out why Christians tend to get hitched so young. Most of us agree that sex outside of marriage is wrong, yet we still have sensual urges within us, so the easiest solution is to follow the Apostle Paul's admission that, quote, if we cannot control ourselves and are burning with passion, we should get married, which, by the way, is in 1 Corinthians 7. He said, however, That passage comes after a long plea with the Corinthians to remain single.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in Christian circles, I heard a dozen feats of hermeneutical gymnastics explaining away why this doesn't really apply to us.
Oh, wow.
And God really wants you to get married, and he was just kidding before. But what if Paul was telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
What if it really is better for us to remain single instead of diving headfirst into marriage? And he said, I like this line, I think too many of us have hopped aboard the I'm burning with passion train rather than authentically giving ourselves to the Lord and the work he has for us as singles. Like he says, the point is our desires, those things we see as ultimate and necessary for satisfaction, are malleable. We can change the way we see things. And we can reorder our priority list. Because at the end of the day, our hearts are supposed to be captivated by the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
You're nodding your head. Like, theologically speaking, is he right that the bulk of that passage was Paul pleading with them to be single? And they said, by the way, if you really just can't do it, fine, get married.
Yeah, Paul stayed single, so he gets it.
Right.
And he's telling them all the hard things that come with being married and why it's better to be single, because you can fully give yourself to Christ. And it's your life, and you can do things without being held back or without having to worry about your family and your husband and your kids or your wives, you know? He's saying, look at all these benefits that come with being single. Look at how you can work for the Lord better in this way. But if you really can't do it, that's fine.
I tell you what, though, that's not a comfortable passage for a lot of people.
No.
Because we have made the pinnacle of Christian success not devotion to Christ. We've made it marriage.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we also need to remember that when we do get married, it's supposed to be a picture of what our relationship with Jesus looks like.
It's supposed to be, correct.
So keeping that in mind before we just dive headlong into it, and remembering that just like our relationship with Jesus, marriage is work and it requires a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend years, decades, an entire marriage dealing with conflict within it that's distracting you from a closer relationship with Jesus because you got married for sex.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder, I'm seeing a parallel between yesterday's discussion about kids and cell phones, and you could not give your kid a cell phone, but he would be literally the only one in his class that didn't have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he would, have that FOMO. He'd be missing out on a lot. And now we've got the discussion where a little bit older, but kids who are Christians and are saving themselves for marriage, while around them, those who are not Christians are falling one by one into having sexual relations. Then, like, the ones who are staying chaste are like, wait, what? I'm missing out. I don't want to be the only one. There was a movie, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, a few years ago, making fun of a guy who'd never been with a woman.
Yeah, and of course, God's sexual ethics don't change when a culture changes, because a long time ago, the Christian ideal of sex being between a man and a woman in marriage, that used to be the cultural ideal. Well, it's not anymore. But how do we, is this a fixable problem? In that somehow the church culture kids are brought up in, again, from parents and from churches, create young people who are getting married between freshman and sophomore year of college just so they can have sex with one another. That's not the recipe for a lasting covenant that honors the Lord. Mm-hmm. How do we change it? Can we?
I think it starts really, really young. I don't think parents should instill into their kids that they will get married someday, because especially as you start to get older and maybe you haven't found that person, there's this feeling like you're a failure, or that you're doing something wrong when maybe you just haven't met the right person yet, and God's just biding his time, or maybe I don't think God has intended for everyone to get married in the first place. So there's that, and there's still your life still has value, and you can still accomplish many things while being single. So I think it just starts from as soon as they're old enough to talk and understand these subjects. I think we just need to reframe how we discuss it with children.
Well, yeah, because I mean the challenge is, of course, God's standard. One of the ways to summarize it is say, don't do it till you're married. but that does create, as you called it before, the forbidden fruit. You do anything, but don't do this. Don't do it. Don't do it. And that creates like my wife talked about when she was a kid. If her parents didn't like a boy she was dating, that would make her want to date him even more.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like this teenager thing. Lauren, have you and Eddie figured this out yet for your kids? I know they're young, but
No.
I mean, it's not as easy as it seems to change the narrative in a way that will not produce people getting married too young.
Yeah, I think also I wonder if it is starting to change with the de-emphasis of purity culture. That was really big in the 90s. I wonder if it will change with this upcoming generation. I don't know. And not putting so much emphasis in youth group talking about purity. Like, can we talk about other stuff?
Was that part of your experience in youth group?
Yes. Yeah.
People didn't see you roll your eyes like all the way behind your head.
Yeah.
It was a big part of youth group, even in for you, it was the late 90s, right?
It'd be like the early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Oh, boy. I forgot how young you were. And so it was so often, it was just annoying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe if we spent time like learning how to read scripture instead, I don't know.
and teaching kids what it means to love the Lord with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah, focusing on Jesus and not focusing on all the things you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, so perhaps it's just if we talk about purity less, it will be less of a focus.
Yeah, why don't we talk about Jesus more and about what it looks like to love him, and then hopefully your actions align with his desires for your life.
Are we willing as a culture, though, inside the church, you think, to shift away from idealizing marriage? Because really, if you look at Paul's advice, we'd be idealizing following the Lord and being single unless he calls you to something else. Like, we'd have to actually start cheering for singleness.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should. I think we've done a disservice to the single people in our community.
Wow.
You know, at a wedding, there's usually the anniversary dance, I think it's called, but where, you know, the couples are all dancing and you wait to see who's been out the longest, who's been married the longest. Well, what if they had a singles, you know, where you go out, everybody who's not married go out on the dance floor and then start one by one pulling them off. And you've been single for 50 years and everybody applaud.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening, but that's almost, you know, Paul's culture.
Yeah, well, and our friend Christopher Yuan, who wrote a wonderful book, says that we'll never effectively reach, or it'll be difficult to effectively reach the homosexual community until we develop a robust theology of singleness. Because what you're asking people to do is commit themselves to
celibacy.
Yeah, the wah, wah, oh, you didn't get married, too bad. That's not how it's supposed to be.